Space, the final frontier. This is the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Its mission to explore the solar system, to seek out new observations and data, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now the host of the Observer's Notebook, Tim Robertson.
Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. I'm Tim Robertson, the host of the podcast and also the coordinator of the training program. Thank you for downloading and listening. The Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers collects and analyzes observations of various solar system bodies and associated phenomena, and publishes detailed reports concerning these bodies in its quarterly publication, the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. This podcast depends upon donations from you, our listeners, to keep it going. If you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, you can donate to it via Patreon. You can start off by giving as little as $1 a month. If you feel even more generous, for $5, you receive early access to the podcast before it goes public. A monthly donation of $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you receive producer credits on the podcast. You can find out more by going to www.patreon.com/observersnotebook. If you'd like to join the association, membership begins at only $22 a year. Find out more at www.alpo-astronomy.org. And we're also on Facebook. Just search for ALPO Astronomy. And this podcast also has a Facebook page as well. Just search for Observer's Notebook. If you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, please subscribe. That way you'll never miss another episode. Now, episode 199, and we're talking meteor showers. Enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this edition of the Observer's Notebook podcast. And today we're talking meteor showers, and that must mean we're talking to Bob Lunsford. Welcome back, Bob.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Now, what meteor showers do we have on our horizon?
On our horizon, we have the biggest one of all, at least for these few years, until the lean start roaring again. The mighty Geminids peak on the night of December 12/13.
Okay.
It's been moved up a day because of leap year. So I know most folks think of it as a 13/14 December, right. But actually the morning of the 13th will be better this year, and that's going to be a Friday morning.
Okay.
But unfortunately,
oh no,
we'll have a 99% moon in the sky that night.
Ouch.
But never fear. If your skies are transparent, you should still be able to see at least 15 meters an hour from the shower.
Okay.
So 15 meters an hour, that's not bad compared to the majority of the rest of the year. That's probably, I'd say, in the upper 10% of activity, which isn't bad.
It's well worth looking for them.
Is it worth heading out? Definitely.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely worth heading out. And I would suggest trying it when the moon is low, like maybe early on the evening of the 12th or 13th.
Okay.
The radiant will be low too, but you might see some of those earth-grazing meteors that shoot across the sky. Those are always neat. But if you only had one little time slot to view these from, I would try Friday morning on the 13th, just your last hour or so before dawn. The moon will be low in the west, so it won't be too effective. The Geminid radiant will be high in the west. So if you can have something like a tree or something, or a house blocking the moon, and just look up toward Gemini, you should see some decent activity.
Fantastic.
If that particular morning happens to be cloudy, I would say the morning or evening, either before or after the 12th or the 14th, should be decent too. So if the sky gods frown upon you, try another morning.
Sounds good.
And I I've seen a lot of pictures taken during moonlight of strong showers. And you know what's neat is the moon illuminates the scenery, like mountains
Oh
or
yeah.
hills. And if if you aim low, have some of the ground above the horizon, and then have a good swath of sky above that, you'd be surprised how many meteors you'll catch. Uh, More meteors will be seen in the lower part of the sky than straight up, only because you're looking through a much thicker layer of atmosphere.
Mhm.
So that might be a challenge for astrophotographers. I got
Yeah.
a guy in Tucson, and he has these big saguaro cactuses surrounding his property,
Yeah.
and he'll get those in the view, plus a meteor shooting right behind it, and it's a great shot, I swear.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can have some foreground object, and even like the recent comet Atlas 3, I have no idea how to say the first name. Atlas 3. I mean, I took some really nice photographs with a palm tree. That just adds to the beauty of the photograph.
For sure, for sure. You probably had the moon to your back, so it was illuminating the palm tree, and then
Hmm.
the comet above the tree. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. It was pretty wild. Great.
So
Anything
those
else?
astrophotographers, this is a good opportunity for the to see the strongest shower of the year, and the meteors are bright, so they'll show up in the moonlight, and plus you might get something that's suitable for framing.
Okay. Sounds good.
So Geminids, full moon, give it a go. And folks who live up in higher elevations like Colorado or something where the air is really transparent, um, moonlight isn't scattered as much in transparent skies. So they may see upwards of 20 to 25 under such
Oh,
conditions.
I never
So,
thought of that. Yeah, because they're just
yeah,
high. Yeah.
if
Interesting
if you're
fact.
down at sea level where it's kind of murky, you may be closer to 10.
Okay.
But if we let's say we're both in Southern California, if we have a Santa Ana that morning and the skies are crystal clear, the stars are twinkling like crazy, so you don't
Hmm.
even think about taking a telescope out. Those are perfect times to watch for meteors
Perfect.
because your skies are transparent and you can see dimmer meteors. So yeah, go for it.
Okay. Great. Do you have any other meteor showers to look forward to?
Most definitely. December is one of the better months for meteor showers. The second best one is known as the Ursids, and they're not active for too long a period. Most of your books say for about a week, but it's only worth observing the night of maximum and maybe the night before and after. This meteor shower is a challenge, even on the night of maximum. I've gone out under totally dark skies and seen next to nothing. So, and I've also gone out and seen 25 an hour.
Hmm.
So, you don't know what kind of surprise you have this year. Now, the Ursids will peak on the morning of December 22nd, which is a Sunday morning. So, if you're off on the weekend, that's a good timing.
Okay.
The moon will be at last quarter phase, so it won't be as terrible as a full moon, but still, if you're looking at anywhere with the moon in your field of view, it's gonna prevent you from seeing that many more meteors. So my suggestion, since the radiant is near the bowl of the Little Dipper, face toward the north and put the
Hmm.
moon at your back.
Good advice.
And this shower is not active during the evening hours for most of us. Now, if you live up in northern Canada or Alaska, it's way up there and never gets below probably 30 degrees. So yeah, you can try it at all hours of the night then. But for us folks further south, it's not worth observing until at least after midnight.
Okay.
And the best hour will be the last hour before dawn, which is probably going to be around 5 a.m.
And chilly.
and chilly.
Okay.
And once again, if your skies are nice and transparent, who knows? You might see a few. But it's so odd because I look toward the south probably 90% of the time when I'm viewing meteor activity, because a lot of it comes from the ecliptic, and then
Hmm.
Ursa Minor is very far from the ecliptic. So it's very strange seeing meteors shoot out of the
Mm,
northern part of the sky.
it's true.
But you know what? It's about time you memorize some of the northern constellations too, like Camellia Pardalis, and trace out Draco for its full length. That'll be your challenge of the day.
There you go.
But there's all kinds of things you can do and learn. And guess what? During the last few months, I normally listen to some music while I'm out under the stars, but I have started listening to the Observer's podcast.
You have?
I have.
My God, you've been on it enough.
You're true. And I even listened to myself. God help me, I didn't want to, but I did. And you know what? That wasn't that awful.
No, you're not. You're not. You do a fine job on the podcast, Bob.
So I've listened to dozens of them now, and I think one of my favorite was when you had David Levy on.
Ah,
That was very entertaining.
that
And
was yeah, because when I was talking to David, in fact, the next episode to release after this one is the 200th episode. So that's gonna be pretty wild. But yeah, when I was talking to David, he thought we were going to talk about Shoemaker Levy and discovering comets, and we talked about Shakespeare. And he goes, "This is the most fun I've ever had on a podcast." Afterward, he's
yeah,
like,
you know what? He was having fun. You could
"Yeah,
tell
he was,
that.
he was," because it wasn't a typical interview with
I
David
think he
Levy.
even got his wife involved, asking the best
Yep,
restaurant there in Tucson.
yep. That's true. Yeah, he was a
So,
lot of fun to talk to.
so yeah, I've had some slow mornings here, and believe me, the Observer's Notebook podcast has helped me get through it.
Ah, fantastic. Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we haven't had you on since the conference, have we?
Um, Probably, I think we did the Perseids before the
We did.
conference.
Oh, so we did talk about you winning the Walter Haas Observers Award, maybe at the conference, a well-deserved award.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I've been around since 1986, I believe,
Hmm.
as a member of Alpo, and it wasn't long before I took over for David. Matter of fact,
That's true.
so yeah, it's been a fun ride, I tell you.
Yeah.
I haven't given Alpo its due because of I'm tugged on three sides by the AMS and the
Oh, I know.
IMO. So, but you know what? There's a lot of great people in Alpo, and
Yes,
it's
there
been
is.
a pleasure to be associated. And it's sad to see some of them pass too,
Yeah.
such as Don Parker and Walter.
Right.
I really
Right.
miss those guys.
And John Westfall. Yeah. I look at
Yes,
who
yes.
have had on the podcast that's no longer with us. Don Mackles. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
people like that. It's just like gone way too soon.
Really,
But
really.
it's kind of, in fact, the Don's birthday was just I think last week or so, and his wife reached out to me. She listened to his one of his interviews with me, and she goes, "It's kind of comforting to hear his voice."
Well, that's
So
great.
yeah,
That's great. Who knows? Maybe my kids will do the same.
yeah.
God, your dad sure is boring, you know?
So all he talked about was meteor showers. Yeah. Well, Bob, we got anything else? Any other showers to talk
Yeah,
about? Or?
I saved the best for last.
Oh, fantastic.
In the early morning hours of January 3rd in the new year of 2025, we have the quadrantid meteor shower peaking. Now, this one has the capabilities of being the best of the year, but its peak is only active for about 6 hours. So you've got to be at the right place at the right time to nail it. And I've
Hmm.
only seen it a couple times at its maximum, but the one time I had 2 hours that provided more than 100 meters an hour.
Oh my goodness.
So it was really great, and they were coming down pretty hot and heavy.
Wow.
Now, the prediction for this, or I should say 2025, on January 3rd, which
Hmm.
happens to be a Friday, is for, I believe, 16 hours universal time, which is a little too far west for most of us in North America. Um, Alaska might be a good spot if it's bearable.
Okay.
It's going to be awful cold.
Yeah, it's not a
But
good time of year to be in Alaska.
you know what? Even Hawaii, the radiant will be low,
Okay.
but you see some meteors shooting up from the northeastern horizon on that morning.
Okay.
So, and the best thing about it, there's no moon that morning. It's going to be a waxing crescent, and it'll set long before midnight.
Fantastic.
So things are looking good for the quadrantid. Even though the maximum is predicted for later in the day, um, everyone in North America should still, if your skies are clear, give it a shot. You can see it the rates increasing as the morning goes on. The radiant is in northern Booties in a area it's a really sparse area, lacking many bright stars. But it was labeled the Muralis quadrant. That's why we call them the quadrantids for an old constellation that no longer exists.
Hmm.
But if you follow the curve of the Big Dipper's handle, it goes right through where the radiant is.
Okay.
So it's just beyond there. So it's in northern Boötes.
All right.
You're probably best to look toward the northwest as late as possible on that morning. And if you can drive to dark skies, that will really increase your chances of seeing more activity. It makes a big difference because the more stars you see, the more meteors you'll see too.
Okay.
So, but I would say if you're just going to stay home and watch, you probably will see 15 to 20 an hour
Okay.
during the last few hours before dawn on that morning. With this duration of this shower being so short, the mornings before and the mornings after are only going to produce maybe one an hour. So this one's kind of here and gone. So definitely circle the morning of January 3rd on your calendar.
All right. I'm circling it right now.
Yep. And after that, we go into our winter hiatus. Most of the activities shifts south for folks in the southern hemisphere. They have activity in Centaurus in February, and it generally follows the Milky Way in our winter months, their spring months down there. I should say summer months. But southern hemisphere has their share of meteors that time of year, and we'll have to wait till April for the Lyrids to show up around the 22nd.
Okay.
And if I recall correctly, the Lyrids are going to be moonless also. So 2025 starting out a lot better than what we just put up with in the 24.
Fantastic.
We had a lot of showers lost to moonlight this year.
It seems we did,
But
yeah.
you know what? It comes and goes like that.
That's true. That's true. Well, we got some decent ones to look forward to right now, though.
Most definitely. And you know what? Overall, 2024 has been a great year. Great total eclipse, a
Yep.
great comet, and the Perseid meteors were outstanding. I wrote an article for the journal. Hopefully, it'll be in this next issue. So,
Oh, good.
yeah. So overall, 24 is a good year, and 25 should be even better for those who like meteors.
Yep, definitely. Definitely. All right, Bob. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast today.
My pleasure, and we'll be back in April.
Sounds good. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Observer's Notebook Podcast. Again, I want to thank Bob Lunsford for coming on the podcast and talking about some upcoming meteor showers. Get out there and observe the meteors. They're a lot of fun. We upload a new episode of the Observer's Notebook on the 1st and 15th of every month. And you can subscribe to us. If you do, please give us a rating. I really appreciate it. You can also listen to us on Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Echo, Spotify, and also on the ALPO YouTube channel. You can help support the podcast by donating to it via Patreon. You can give up to $35 a month, where you will receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. And with that, I want to thank the producer of this podcast, Steve Siedentop and Michael Moyer, for their generous support of the Observer's Notebook. The link for Patreon as well as the link for the Alpo is in the show notes. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is commentman@commentman.net or on Twitter at ObserversNBPod. Until next time, I hope you always have clear and steady skies. Thanks for listening.